Hey, so as many of you know, Robert Saleh just got hired as the Jets' new head coach a couple days ago, and he is bringing along Mike LaFleur to be the offensive coordinator. Now, I believe that the Robert Saleh hire is going to be great for the Jets' future, and I also believe LaFleur is going to be a great offensive coordinator. Um, I think the biggest question now is what happens with Sam Darnold. And I know Jets fans are very split on what to do here. I think NFL fans in general have a very split opinion about Sam Darnold. Some believe that he's a great prospect that just needs a good coach and better weapons. Some believe that if he really was a great quarterback, that he'd be able to make plays happen and he'd be able to have more success without the weapons and the coach. I have flip-flopped on both sides of the fence, and I currently stand that Sam Darnold should be the quarterback for the New York Jets in 2021. The reason why I believe this is it's only going to be the third year for Joe Douglas and the first year for Robert Saleh in this offense. Now, Sam Darnold is going to be going into the last year of his rookie deal unless they take the fifth-year option on him. But this will be the last year where he's going to be inexpensive as a starting quarterback. It's also a year where we have the number 2 pick in the draft, and there's a lot of good quarterback prospects. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1 to the Jaguars, but I'm sure there are a lot of quarterback-needy teams, and I'm sure there are a couple that would love to trade up to number 2 to grab a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson. There's also guys like Trey Lance, but I don't think he'll go as high as number 2. I do believe that the draft capital and Darnold is the move. And the reason why I believe this is because if the Jets perform poorly next year, they'll have another high draft pick, and then they'll have so much draft capital where if they're not in a position to get a top quarterback next year, they can package the draft capital that they have and move up however many picks and get the quarterback that they want, just like a team would this year to number 2 where the Jets are. Sam Darnold's just so young. He's so young, and he really hasn't had much help. Gase obviously he even said himself, which he really didn't need to. If you just put on a Jets game, you could tell he gave Darnold no help whatsoever. He did no favors for this man, and he's only 23. Baker Mayfield came out in the same draft, and he will be 26 in April, and Sam Darnold will still be 23 at that time. So I don't believe that it's fair to compare a Baker Mayfield who has a better offensive line, 2 great running backs, a solid receiving core, a good coach, a good all-around team, that he's now winning playoff games and competing. He lost to the Chiefs today, 22-17, but I don't think it's fair to compare the two because he's years older and he has such a better supporting cast. If you look in that Jets-Browns game when they were missing offensive linemen and coaches and his supporting cast was severely depleted to a New York Jet level, he looked like Sam Darnold does. And Sam Darnold is so many years younger as well. And he was such a good prospect coming out. Like, I truthfully, I wasn't that high on him when he was drafted. But just because I didn't like how much he turned the ball over. But turnovers is something that can be fixed. And I think it would be more devastating to Jets fans for Sam Darnold to have a start like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning went 0-3 in his first 3 playoff starts. He actually lost 41-0 to the Jets. I think back in 2003 or something like that in his first playoff start. And in his very first season, he set the rookie record for interceptions. And I think he set the NFL record until Jameis Winston broke it last year. He had 28, I'm pretty sure. So turnovers is something that's fixable. The, actual talent, the skill, that's not something that you could necessarily teach. It's similar to speed. You could teach mechanics, you could change someone's throwing motion to a certain degree, but quarterbacks can develop. All NFL players can, but you especially see development in quarterbacks. And I just think Darnold has the tools to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. And I think to give up on a kid who's only 23 years old, the age I believe Baker was drafted at, and to give up on him already when he's had no help, I think is premature. And I think the amount of draft capital that you could likely get for the number 2 pick is so great, and there's so many holes on this team that you take all the draft capital you can get. We already have, the extra first and third this year, and I believe we have an extra first and third next year as well. So we already have so many picks, and obviously we pick at the top of the second round. But you trade down from 2, and you get another haul of picks. I love what Douglas did last year in the draft. I feel he hit on just about every single pick, even late with guys like Bryce Hall and Braden Mann. I thought those were 2 great picks late, and obviously Becton and Mims at the top. I'd rather have Douglas have the opportunity to go get guys that he thinks are going to be great in the draft and to continue to build the foundation of this team. There's a lot of building blocks with, Quinnen Williams, Marcus May, Denzel Mims. I just think it's too early to give up on a guy like Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold fits the system that LaFleur is going to bring in offensively. I think that the entire organization is going to have a different feel, and it's going to have a lot more leadership, direction. It's just going to be an entirely different organization in next season and the years beyond. You look at a team like the Bills that were a mess for so long before Sean McDermott came around, and now with the regime that they have, that's a Super Bowl level team right now. And Josh Allen was even more raw as a prospect coming out than Sam Darnold was, at least in my opinion. I just feel like it's too early to give up on Darnold. Give him 1 year with LaFleur. Give him 1 year with some more weapons. And if he's not the guy, then you can move on next year. It's not. I would feel differently if we had the number 1 pick and Trevor Lawrence. I would want Trevor Lawrence. And I would also feel different if we already gave him the 5th-year option, and now it's either sign him to an extension and pay him. He'd likely get at least what Teddy Bridgewater got last year, 3 years, 60. I don't see him getting much less than that. And even if you would give him 3 years, 45, still a $15 million a year commitment. It's more than double what I believe he's making right now. I believe he's only making around $7 million. It's not such a long-term commitment. If he's not good this year, you move on next year. There's always moving pieces at quarterback. We saw the amount of turnover last year with Dalton, Winston, Mariota. There's always quarterbacks moving around. There's always quarterbacks at the top of the draft. So I think give him 1 year with the new regime, see how he does, give him better weapons, and then, actually give the guy an opportunity to get a real look, because I think it really resonated with me that Baker Mayfield looked as bad as he did against the Jets, with the multiple fumbles and, he just couldn't get anything going. And that's because his offensive line was depleted and he didn't have talented receivers. Now, I do believe the Jets receiving core from the 2020 season is actually pretty good, and that the offensive line played decently well. But, and I know there are a lot of concerns with Darnold, with turning the ball over. He doesn't seem to have the it factor just yet. He started to, I believe I started to see it more in the second half of the season, but, he doesn't have that edge to him. He's a very laid back kind of guy, which is, he just doesn't have that energy most of the time. And more importantly than that, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't played a full season. He's about to go into his 4th year. So availability is just as important as ability, and he hasn't been able to do that. So I think you give him more weapons, and improved offensive line, and improved coaching staff, and then you can make a real evaluation on him. I think Baker Mayfield, if the Jets would have had him in the same time span, I think he would have struggled just as much as Sam Darnold has, if not more. And I think Sam Darnold would be just as good, if not better, than Baker currently is. And that might not be a popular opinion, but I think simply because we haven't seen it with Darnold, and we have seen it with Baker, and it's a hypothetical. But I would want to know what that would look like. I would want to know what Darnold would look like under Mike LaFleur, under Saleh, with an improved offense, an improved team. And I think that Darnold has a high enough ceiling where it's worth it to give him at least 1 year. And if it doesn't work, Douglas is still there for years. Saleh is still there for years. They can build with whatever quarterback they decide to go with next year, plus the amount of draft capital they can get at number two. I think that, worst case scenario, Darnold isn't the guy and he performs just as poorly as he did this year, next year. I think that the amount of draft capital you can get this year and next year will allow you to build up the rest of the team so that when you do get your new quarterback next season, you'll be in a place where he won't have to go through what Darnold went through of not having the pieces or the coaches around him. So you'll be able to get a better evaluation from him at the start. That's just my opinion. I know the Darnold debate is going to go on for months until the draft happens, until the Jets trade the second pick or draft Justin Fields or Zach Wilson or whoever they take, But I do believe, either way that they decide to go, I'll agree with, I won't be 100% happy with it, but I respect Douglas and I respect Saleh, so I'll respect their decision making. I do think it's an exciting time to be a Jets fan. The offseason always is the best time because it has the least amount of heartbreak. So let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think the Jets should keep Sam Darnold? Do you think they should trade Sam Darnold? Do you think they should get the number 2 pick? Do you think they should go for a guy like Wentz or Watson? Don't come at me in the comments about Wentz. I don't believe he's the answer, but let me know what you think the Jets should do in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think, and yeah, that's it for today. I'll be back on the next one.